Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this is my review for the Knick Season 1, Episode 7, Get the Rope. And holy shit, this episode was crazy. Crazy. This episode was literally one crazy event after another. You had so much going on this episode. You had one surgery that you didn't know if it was going to work or not. You had that crazy riot going on. And we had some really big reveals. And with 3 episodes left of the season, this episode was just perfect. Because the thing with this episode was, I said last week that the Knick is only good when it's really long. And forget what I said about that, because this episode was by far the best episode of the season. So many big reveals in this episode. So many big things happened in this episode. And so many things to advance the plot forward. And, I will say we didn't get any plot with Spates and with Spite and Cornelia. We didn't get any thing with that, but we did not need that in this episode because this episode was actually one of the first times we saw the entire hospital work together to achieve a goal. And I thought that was really well done because I always love it when you do these sort of episodes where you're kind of, it's a bunch of characters working together to achieve a certain goal, and I thought that was really well done this episode. So let's just get to it. So beginning this episode, we actually start with a flashback with John dreaming about his time working with Dr. Christiansin. Dr. Christiansin, of course, was the guy who ended up killing himself in the first episode. And, we could see that right away that John, think of how Algernon is being treated by John right now. That is how Dr. Christiansin treated John. Not like before, like now that John respects Algernon. Dr. Christiansin was really a father figure to him. It was a really great scene to see. This guy, Dr. William Stewart Halstead, visited them. And Dr. Christiansin, really wanted John to do this surgery on his own. He let him do it on his own, basically, because he wanted him to take over. Even though he knew what he was doing, he wanted John to take over because this was one of John's, first procedures. And John's very convinced, oh, it's not going to work out or whatever. And he ended up, doing a pending surgery in front of Dr. William Stewart Halstead. And it ended up going really well. But then we find out that he's actually knocked out because of cocaine, probably, and he's woken up by his companion, Ling Ling, probably a girl he was having sex with, and she informs him that Ping Wu, who is the owner of the opium den, is choking. So we get this really big thing here where we don't know if this is going to work because we don't know if John can do it. And, basically what ends up happening is, we don't know if John's gonna be able to save this guy's life or not, so we're gonna, he's trying the best he can. And, so yeah, we're not really sure what's gonna happen there, so he takes this guy into the Knick, tries to save him, and we don't know if it's gonna work. Galinger ends up being late for the surgery because Eleanor, he needs to calm her down and everything, probably because Eleanor, he took her out, and they're still trying to adopt that, baby, which we did not hear about in this episode. We only heard about that for one thing, but I like that we didn't hear much about that, because it wasn't a huge thing in this episode. So, meanwhile, while this is happening, Officer Finney Sears attempts to recruit a young black girl to work as a prostitute for Bunky Collier. The gangster Bunky Collier. And, so yeah, that was definitely very interesting. You can see that this girl really does not want to work for this, for, Bunky Collier. It was really sad scene to watch. And, back to the surgery, John actually does end up saving this man's life by using one of Algernon's, pipes, one of John's, pipes to perform an impromptu, tracheotomy. And, Galinger really doesn't give a shit what he's doing, because, of course, Galinger does not like Algernon because he's jealous of him, because he could never be as good a surgeon as him. So the thing with this scene I thought was very well done was we really saw John, trying to incorporate Algernon's tools into his surgery, and it seems to be working really well now. So I like seeing that a lot. I like seeing that a lot. I thought that was really well done, definitely. So Then back to the whole prostitute thing. The girl's boyfriend shows up. He fights with the undercover policeman, and the policeman stabs him in the side. And Finney is brought into the Knick for treatment. And we get this really crazy scene going on. He's brought into the Knick for treatment. And a mob of the Irish countrymen gather outside, awaiting news of his condition and thirsty for revenge. We see Cleary outside trying to get him to all, like, calm down, and Cornelia's like, what the fuck is going on here? She has no idea what's going on, because there's literally a bunch of people outside who are just thirsty for revenge, awaiting news of his condition, because they want to make sure he's okay. Plus, of course, he was stabbed by, this black guy, and they basically want to kill this guy. They want to make sure he's dead, and they want to do whatever they can to kill him, so John and the staff are doing what they do to save Finney, but it's very futile. And they tell, his mother, who is very crazy. If you thought Eleanor was crazy last week, this woman is even more crazy than her. Eleanor is nowhere near as crazy as this woman. This woman is just insane, She is just so upset that they're not going to be able to save Finney, that, she's so upset and everything. She doesn't know what she's gonna do, and she's just pissed at what's going on. So pissed. And, she's saying, you need to save him right now. You need to do what you can to save him. And, they call in Algernon to try to save him, but it's really no use. It's very futile. It's not gonna work, and she is just so upset. She ends up going outside, and basically, this is where we find out they're not gonna be able to save Finney. And this is where the episode just gets intense. From here on, it's like full-out combat. And so Finney's mother addresses the crowd, and she says, make them pay, and she says, kill every single one of them, make them pay for what they did to my baby. And that was just so crazy. She wants every black man to be attacked in sight. And the crowd gladly obliges. They start beating random black men on the street. And, John just goes outside like, what are you doing? Because, like, seriously, they're just, like, beating the shit out of all of these black men. And John has no idea what they're doing. John just is, he has no idea what to do at this point. So the injured men, are brought into the Knick. And, it's really crazy here, because as I said, most of this episode from here on out is everyone trying to work together to try to save these men. And, basically, they're brought into the Knick, they're trying to save them, they're doing the best they can to save them. However, a rumor circulates that the man who attacked Finney is inside the house, and with the assistance of the police, the mob rushes the hospital. And basically, John is doing his best to protect these people. He's saying, all the black people on this side, all the white people on this side, because they're not after any white people, they're after the black people. So, he basically says, all of the, as he calls them, Negroes. I would never use this term, but they said it. I'm just saying all of the Negroes on that side, all of the regulars on this side. So, it's really crazy at this point. A lot of intense shit is going on. It's really heartbreaking to watch because it's really hard to believe that this was our world once. It was. This was our world, and things like this did happen. So they're doing whatever they can to save these people, but the mob ends up going into the hospital, and they're, like, about to destroy it. It is, like, really crazy here. It looks like they're about to destroy the living shit out of the hospital, and, like, I was just like, holy shit, this is intense. So John brings the staff and patients out of harm's way. He takes them into the basement, and basically, to bring them into the basement so that way they're safe. And this is where, this was such a good scene. I love this next scene. Everyone discovers Algernon's secret clinic, and John is very happy to show it to everyone. However, Barrow and Galinger are not happy to see it. Barrow is like, what is the meaning of this? And Barrow, he is just a very racist person. Galinger is, I don't think Galinger, after this episode, I don't feel Galinger is racist. I feel Galinger is pretending to be racist because he is jealous of Algernon and wishes he was as good as a surgeon as him. Because he's not. He's not as good as a surgeon as Algernon. And John knows this now. Before, John didn't really respect Algernon as much, and Galinger was okay with it. But now Galinger is like in a, is very, very enraged at what's going on. So I think that's really why Galinger is so upset. I don't think it's so much that he is, racist. I think it's more that he's jealous. So when Cornelia sees this, she's very happy. You can see that Cornelia had no idea what he could do, and had no idea that he would do something like this. And John admits to knowing about it, and even assisting in his clinic, and he's happy to talk about it. He says it like it's a good thing, and I like that John addressed it that way. I was wondering, alright John, how are you going to approach this? And I like that John approached it that way. So they decide to move Algernon's patients on foot because it's still not working. They're worried that the clinic is going to be destroyed because literally there's so much glass being broken. There are people like outside the Knick. They have no idea what's going on. And it makes sense because if you were in that sort of situation where a bunch of people are just going crazy, the best thing to do is get out of the hospital. That's the best thing to do. So what they ultimately decide to do is they move the patients on foot, rolling gurneys covered in sheets down to the closest Negro clinic. It's a very tragic scene because even Algernon has to duck beneath the gurney to stay out of view of the angry mob because if something bad were to happen, you know, if someone were to see Algernon, God forbid, he probably would have died, and that wouldn't have been good, because one, Algernon's the best character on the show, two, I just wouldn't want to see that happen to Algernon, you know, I would never want to see that happen to him. So basically, you know, it's really crazy here, and the group then arrives, and they assist the understaffed clinic in treating the injured, because the clinic there doesn't really know what he's doing as much, so basically, you know, they're assisting him, and they're trying to treat the injured, and you can see a lot of playfulness between Cornelia and Algernon. They tell this story back in the day when they were kids, and they saw each other, like, half naked or something, without pants, and he saw her without pants, and she saw him. I thought that was a funny scene to watch, you know, especially because they're trying to treat a patient and they're bringing it up. I thought that was definitely really funny, and I overall really enjoyed that scene. I thought that it was definitely a very funny scene, in my opinion, and it was just fun to watch, especially when there was so much shit going down. It was fun to see that scene. So, it is still daylight, and basically, luckily, what ends up happening is that, basically, what ends up happening here is that, luckily, Sister Harriet saves the day. She's like, get the fuck out of here, or she's like, get the fuck out of here, or I will do serious damage to all of you. I'll fuck you all up, and they're just terrified by her. I thought that was awesome, the way she handled it, because, like, it was really funny the way she handled it, in my opinion, because the thing is, like, out of all the people to save them, it was Sister Harriet. Sister Harriet, really just badass. She is seriously just such a badass. She's been a badass since, like, episode 2, and she ends up saving all of them. Rain ends up falling all over the city, which drives the rioters off the streets, and so they're okay and everything. So, just to make sure they're okay, it then goes, you know, it's then night, and basically Cornelia and John are talking. Cornelia says she's going to go with Algernon to find out what happened in the clinic, you know, make sure the clinic's okay. And John says he's going to go take Lucy home. So, you know, we get two really big scenes here. Algernon and Cornelia, they return to inspect the damage of the Knick, and we also see Barrow cleaning up some of the damage, and we see that one of Barrow's prostitutes, one of the girls that he, you know, is trying to have sex with, it's actually backfired on him because she's having sex with someone else. So I thought that was very well done. Barrow kind of got what he deserves there, and Barrow kind of did cause all this. He did. He kind of caused all this because if you remember, Barrow made that deal to bring, you know, prostitutes into Bunky. You know, that was all Barrow's idea. So Barrow kind of did this to himself. I hate to say it, but he did. So basically, Algernon and Cornelia, they then return to inspect the damage of the Knick, and they find that his clinic is actually okay. It's completely okay. There was no damage at all, and that was really good. It was really good. The way he hit it was a very good way, and it's really convenient that it was right in the basement because they didn't even go in there. They didn't suspect anything. And, basically, you know, Cornelia asked Algernon about the patients he delivered because she knows that he delivered a few patients, and he talks about how this one mother, you know, had a girl and 2 girls, and it was really sweet to see. And Cornelia, something happens to her in this scene. She just starts to admire the man Algernon has become, and, you know, it's a really cute scene and everything. I thought it was really cute the way it was done. And they end up sharing a very passionate kiss, and that was extremely surprising. I was not expecting that to happen. And now there is no way in hell Cornelia is going to marry her fiance. There's no way. Because, 1, she just cheated on him. 2, I wouldn't be surprised if she just says, she just says to him, fuck off, I'm done, Algernon's the one I love. I would have never suspected for Algernon and Cornelia to have a romantic connection. Now, they were sort of hinting it in this episode, I will say. They were sort of hinting it in this episode with the way that we saw Cornelia and Algernon in this episode. For example, the scene earlier in the episode when Cornelia and Algernon were talking about childhood memories. That made me think, these two have a lot of chemistry, but I thought it was more friendship chemistry than it was lover chemistry, and I actually like that they're together now because Cornelia needs someone like Algernon. Algernon's a very good man, and she needs someone like him, definitely. So I thought that was definitely very well done, and I really enjoyed that. So then what ends up happening is probably the most disturbing scene of the episode. It was disturbing. It seemed like it was going to be a good thing, but ended up being very disturbing. So John walks Lucy back to her apartment. She invites him inside, and he's about to leave, but she ends up saying, oh, my roommate's not here, come on inside. And I was like, okay then, because last week, if you remember, Lucy was like trashing John with Birdie, and they both did not like John. They were both trashing him. And in this scene, they're not trashing him at all. In this, she's not trashing him at all. In this scene, she seems to like what he's doing. And she begins to undress, and I'm just like, what is going on here? Because it seemed to be extremely abrupt, and she says, help me with this. And then she says, will it hurt? And we find out right here that they are about to have sex. And John says, I can make it painless and perfect. And basically, we find out what he means by that. He ends up pulling out vials of cocaine to basically numb her so she won't feel anything. And the two end up having sex. However, the next day, we find out that she is starting to become addicted to cocaine. Her friend comes in, and, she's laughing, and she asks her what's going on. And basically, she's going to tell her everything that happened the night before. And I thought that was a really good twist because before, it seemed like Lucy was against cocaine, and now she's okay with it. She's doing cocaine, and she's honestly no better than John now. She isn't. She's no better than John, and I thought that was just a very well done scene, and I really enjoyed that in this episode. This episode was just amazing, though. I was so into it. The entire episode was so interesting, in my opinion. There are a lot of things to talk about now. I loved seeing Cornelia and Algernon together. I love seeing that. Thought that was really well done, in my opinion. That was so cute. I love watching that. It's such a great scene there. Really great stuff with Cornelia and Algernon this episode. I also loved seeing Barrow actually not get what he wants. I thought that was well done. I love seeing that. Sister Harriet chasing all the people off the street was hilarious. I loved watching that. There was also this really great scene where, I forgot to say, Lucy treated Algernon like a regular patient, and Barrow's like, why are you doing that? And she says, that's how I treat all the patients here. It really shows that John is starting to change people's views about, Algernon. Now people accept him more, and now that John accepts him, more people accept him, and I thought that was interesting, and I like that John is more accepting of Algernon now. That's one of the best parts of this show now, is how accepting John is of Algernon, and now that Lucy's addicted to cocaine, I don't know what's going to happen to her. We'll have to see what happens, but I definitely feel she's addicted. They didn't confirm that she is, but we see her the next day taking cocaine, so I'm assuming she's like John now, where she needs to have it, and she's addicted to it. That's just how I personally feel. Now, I'm not saying that's true. All I'm saying is that she seemed very addicted to it to me, and I'm wondering what's going to happen with her friend, because her friend just sees her laughing, and she's like, what? And I don't know if Lucy's going to say what happened was a good thing or a bad thing. I don't think she was raped. I don't think it was that John drugged her, and then she was raped. I don't think that's what happened, okay, because it seemed like they were trying to show this as a bad thing. It's a bad thing because John has basically gotten her addicted to cocaine now, and she doesn't even realize it. So, that's a really big thing. And, as far as Barrow goes, I really hope Barrow decides to stop this deal with Bunky, because it's obviously not a good thing. He just had that huge riot on the street, and it's really all his fault. It is. It's his fault. Even though he doesn't want to admit it, it is completely his fault. It is, okay? Say what you guys want, but this is really all Barrow's fault. It is. And that's basically it for my review of this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys saw this episode. Again, I thought this was an amazing episode. I absolutely loved it. I was into it the entire time. It was one of the first episodes in the Knick that was extremely crazy, in my opinion. It was really crazy. It really was extremely crazy. Let me know what you guys saw this episode. What do you think of John and Lucy? Do you think that John has gotten Lucy addicted to cocaine now? Do you like Algernon and Cornelia together? I thought that was just such a great scene. And I can't wait for Cornelia to tell her fiance no. There's no way in hell she's going to marry him now. There's no way. Did you like the flashback with Christiansin and John? I thought that was a good scene because it showed how, experienced John is and how much he respects Christiansin. I thought that was a good scene as well. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. And I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for tonight's episode of Outlander. So I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.